Hello, girls. This is chapter 19 now. Roma. So, dum scintilla, while Scintilla and Horatia manent, remain anxiously, Venusiae, locative there, remain anxiously at Venusia. Remember, town or city can have the locative case. Quintus and his father now had marched, pluperfect tense, had now marched, flac, time how long accusative, for 9 days, Romam, motion towards accusative, no need then for a preposition because it's a town or city, had now marched for 9 days to Rome. They had crossed, pluperfect again, mountains and rivers. The journey, fuerat, had been, pluperfect, difficult and laborious. Tandem, at last, they were not far from Rome. At last, they were not far from Rome. I'm actually just looking at that. Yeah, and that should be Roma above there. So non longe, they were no longer from Rome. It's they were not far. There should be a line above it, from Rome. Quintus was valle fessust, was very tired, but his father said, imperative, negative, noli, don't despair, my son, vocative there. The journey is almost finished. We are not far from Rome. Ablative there for Roma. We don't need ab because it's a town or city again. Postudier. The next day they caught sight. There's that x sound, which tells us it's the perfect tense. The next day they caught sight of the walls, neuter plural, hence it ending with an a, of the city, genitive. And they hurried to the gates. Nox. Night had now come when they entered the city. They found a small inn. They ate. And after dinner, they continuo immediately, dormi verunt, perfect tense, went to sleep. Prima luce, twab. At first light, Flaccus woke up Quintus, and he said, come on, Quintus, we ought to look for a school. Lente procedebant. Slowly they were proceeding through the streets of the city. Tandem. At last, ambulabant, they were walking in the sacred way, and soon they had come to the forum, pluperfect. Remember, the forum was the marketplace. Nec. Neither Quintus nor his father had ever seen neuter, such magnificent buildings. For a long time they were standing astonished. Then they were looking at omnia, everything, accusative plural, neuter. Hic erat. Here was the temple of Vesta. Remember her? The goddess of the hearth. Ubi, where the Vestal virgins were taking care of the eternal flame. Illic, there was the Basilica Aemilia. That was the law court. There was the Basilica Aemilia, where the magistrates were dicebant, were dispensing, imperfect, justice. Here was the rostra, the speaker's platform, where the magistrates, habebant, were making speeches to the people. You'll notice there that magistratus is plural, even though it ends with the US. That's because it is a fourth declension noun. Illic, there had stood the Senate House. Now it was lying in ruins. Imperfect there. Ambusta, burnt down in a riot. In front was the Mount Capitoline. Do you remember that? The political centre, where was standing the great temple Jovis, genitive, of Jupiter. They had looked at everything for a long time. Pluperfect there. When Flaccus said, come on, my son, mane bimus, that's the future tense, we will stay at Romae, locative, at Rome for a long time. You will see all these things often. A foro disceterunt. They left from the forum, and they climbed the hill, Mox. Soon they had arrived at the school, genitive, of Orbilius. They stood, steterunt. I'm forgetting my rule that we look at the whole sentence, not word by word like in English. My apologies, ladies. So, steterunt, they stood outside the door, genitive, of the school. They were able to hear the boys, recitantes, present participle, don't need to know that for the exam, we haven't learned that yet. They were able to hear the boys reciting, and Orbilius, accusative present participle, still don't need to know it though, correcting eos, you do need to know this, them, accusative. However, they did not enter. Flaccus said, come on, Quintus, we ought to find lodging and to buy new clothes. Quintus and his father, discesserunt, left, there's that perfect sound, departed from the middle of the city, and they were proceeding to the Subura. That was that poor part that we talked about, where the poor people, habitabant, imperfect, were living. Ibi, there were no, or literally, as in there were no big houses, but high tenements, high blocks of flats. We said that an insula is an island, but here it's an island above the sea of kind of poverty that you've got there, which I realise is a grim way of looking at it, but there we go. In which, in quibus, ablative there, were living multi familiae, many families. in which were living many families. Viae sordidae erant, the streets were dirty and narrow. Many people were running hukiluk here and there. Everywhere there were shouts and tumultus and uproar. Soon they came to a clothing shop. Flaccus, where am I? Bought, bought togam praetextam, a purple bordered toga for Quintus, dative, indirect object there. So he bought a purple bordered toga for Quintus and a white, remember that word, candidus, where we get the word candidate from because political candidates would make their togas extra special white. So, and he bought a white toga. So he bought a white toga, a purple bordered toga and a white tunic, dative for Quintus. Quintus, who had never, pluperfect, seen, neuter plural, such splendid clothes, gave thanks, patri, dative, to his father. Then he proceeded into the subura, and they were looking imperfect for lodging. And that is where we got to last time. And I'll load it up. Good luck in all of your exams, everybody.